What is up, Waffle Gang? I do hope you are well. My name is Mark, and today we're checking out some more r/mi the butthole. And if you'd like to skip that initial waffle, timestamps are in the description and along the timeline below. But if you are new here, please consider hitting a like, that subscribe, maybe that notification bell too. Don't know why my hands are moving so much today. And let's crack on with today's stories. Much love, guys. Now, our first story comes from a throwaway account titled, "Am I the arsehole for not helping my sister and husband pay for their IVF treatment using my inheritance, despite having no immediate use for it? I don't know what all info I should provide, so if I miss something that you might need, please do ask me and I'll answer ASAP. So I'm a 25 female and my sister Ella is 31. My husband is Tom and her husband is John. Ella is bisexual, and our parents were religious as fuck. So when she brought home a girlfriend in high school, they kicked her out. She never got an inheritance when our mum died. The both of us had cut contact with our parents, but I still decided to accept the money because I figured it's the one good thing to come out about abusive life, so why not? The legal side of things was finalized a week ago. Ella and John came to see me while Tom was at work and told me they wanted to talk about something important. They said they had exhausted all of their fertility money and didn't have enough to try for IVF again. I could see where this was going, so I said, "I'm sorry, Ella, I understand. I was thinking about this as well, and Tom thinks it's the right thing to do. You should have half the money. You deserve it." John tells me that's not what they want to talk about, but they wanted all of the money. I'm a bit taken back. Apparently half won't be enough. I tell him I'm going to use my part, or if she didn't want the half, all of it, for my daughter's college fund and another fund for her to use for whatever she wishes during her teen years. I reminded Ella that we always promised each other with our children will be financially well off because we never had that growing up. Where I live, college is extremely expensive, so despite my daughter being only 3, Tom and I wanted to start this for her. I tell Ella and John all of this, and Ella is just upset at this point. John is more willing to have a conversation though. She comes back from the kitchen and says I'm rubbing the fact that I'm a mother in her face. I'm angry by this point because I thought she loved my daughter like her own. Ella said I was sabotaging her and I owed her for looking after me when we were kids. John said since Ella faced more struggles, she deserved it all, despite knowing full well our parents hurt me regularly as well. I was just not prepared to fight. My daughter needed my attention and I wanted Tom to be by my side because Ella was acting aggressive. I asked them to leave and called Tom. We discussed this again and agreed we shouldn't give them the money. Ella calls me and I picked up and she tells me she has to try again and that her relationship is rocky because they're frustrated they can't have a kid. I told her I would not give her the entire amount and just hung up. I feel guilty about all this now, but I don't know if I should. Maybe since I don't have an immediate use for the money, I should have given it to her. Am I the asshole? I got to say in the first 3 paragraphs on this one, I was like, oh no. And I was thinking if I was in like OP's position and one of my brothers was excluded from the world, I'd want to share that money with them, which it got to by the end of the 3rd paragraph. And I think it's a very generous thing to do. Don't get me wrong. I think it's still a generous thing to do because let's face it, OP didn't have to do that, but they did. And I think that's a great thing to do that they did make that offer. Then John turns around and says that they wanted all the money. And I think, holy shit, really? You really gonna go down that path? And don't get me wrong, I feel for anyone who's going through like fertility issues and stuff like that. It must be incredibly difficult. But then to act entitled, and it just got worse through the story when they said like Ella had faced more struggles. It was like manipulation as well, which just isn't fair. Especially when you mention that, you don't want your child to have the life you had growing up and you're trying to provide that sort of like nest egg for them as well. And Ella still didn't understand that. That's quite sad, isn't it? But Sad Capybara and Sand says, and quote, "You should have half of the money, you deserve it." John tells me that's not what they wanted to talk about, but they wanted all of the money. Again, I can't believe someone turned around and said that. And then says, "What the fuck? You offered an equal split," and she went, "Nope, I want it all," and is trying to pull out every emotionally manipulative tool in the book to get what she wants. Seems she turned out more like her mother than she'd like to admit. You are not the asshole, and you should just flat out tell her that if either her or John bring up wanting more than half ever again, they'll get nothing. Saz says not the asshole. I think you were right and fair to offer to split the money with her, but in no way should she get all of it. This is the chance for you to ensure your child's future, and as her mother, it's only right for you to do so. Ella can look for alternative ways to become a mother that doesn't involve spending your part of the inheritance. Fertility problems are super unfortunate, but it doesn't give her the right to take your daughter's college money. Owen says, and quotes, John tells me that's not what I wanted to talk about, but they wanted all of the money. And there says, no, the sheer brass neck is astounding. You made a generous but fair offer. You are clearly not the arsehole, and you shouldn't for a moment let them make you doubt yourself. Spintacular Spender says, not the arsehole. You offered half, and that was generous enough. It is unreasonable of them to expect you to give them all of the money. Additionally, her relationship is rocky because they're frustrated they can't have a kid. And says, this line also concerns me. A baby can't save a marriage. In fact, it probably make it worse. If you want to give them half, that's fine, but not a penny more. And we'll finish up with a final frontier who says, not the arsehole. Honestly, I wouldn't even give her half the money after the way your sister behaved. Now, what do you guys make of this one? I'm gonna hear your thoughts and we'll move on to the next story. And our next story comes from Cartman's Water Park. And I the arsehole for firing my kid and then making him work for free. I own a water park. Before everyone calls bullshit, I never said I own Disneyland. I own a water park. It's small and local, more like a state fair type situation. I don't really know how to describe it. That's irrelevant, no. Up until COVID, it was a very successful water park. Now it's a struggling water park. I hire a lot of high schoolers because frankly, who else will work for $10, free park privileges, free fly food, and no health benefits? Sounds evil, but we used to have stacks of applicants, even kids calling for volunteer gigs. Because of COVID, we've had to cut the staff. I hired maybe 20 less people and cut hours of operation. And also, now I've had to put my teenagers on payroll. Now that my kids, specifically my 16-year-old son, work there, they have the same benefits the staff does. They can bring 2 friends for free admission, discounts for the other 3. Well, my kid decided to pull a Richie Rich and act like an arsehole and demand everything for free for like 6 people. Security was too scared to kick out the boss's kid and called me instead. I had to come there and kick them out myself. As a result, I fired and banned my kid and banned his friends. I'm also making him pick up trash at park for like 6 hours on Saturdays. My wife said this punishment is extreme and embarrassing, and I'm being an arsehole. To me, I see it as him helping and contributing to the family business, especially after how he treated the staff who puts food in mouth. What about you guys, Reddit? Do you guys think I'm being an arsehole? Edit, so I can't go into too many details for reasons, but basically my kid shows up with 6 hoodlums. They refuse to let security check their bags. 1 kid has a knife, another weed and booze, 1 had pepper spray. It was a girl. I give her a slight pass because being a girl is scary, but still against the rules. They refuse to pay. They called the kid who works the ticket counter who has special needs a slur and basically said that I'd personally make sure he gets fired if I didn't let him in. Poor guy is in the process of quitting and I'm trying to convince him not to. Maybe a lawsuit, to be honest. When it was lunchtime, my kid went behind the snack bar and made food for all his friends and some cute girls that were in line and didn't charge them. He was in a bathing suit and no shoes, working a fryer and grill, huge health violations. Then made a mess and refused to clean up after themselves. Then they went up a tall ride and tossed things off them, including a can, because we run a very family-orientated park, with rides for kids starting at 3 years old. My kid, granted, wasn't as bad as some of the others, but he knows way better than this. With all my family, including my mum and dad, working at the park, also we don't have an office. It's the ticket counter, filled with 16-year-olds. We really have no one to leave him with at home, and he can't be trusted at home alone. Willing to take any and all suggestions on how to punish this kid if you think what I'm doing is not right. But why am I here says not the arsehole. Also, in my opinion, you're teaching your kid not to be an arsehole. And Ranch says, I'm going to say barely not the arsehole. I understand he's your kid and it's punishment for him to pick up the trash, but being that he was previously an employee, it seems legal adjacent. I don't know. I don't know what the law is where you are. Not the arsehole for firing your own kid and punish him for being an arsehole to your other employees, but I'd maybe think of a different punishment like cleaning up your home or whatever. Also, info. How long did you plan on having him clean up the trash at the water park? 88 Super Manga says, not the arsehole. Being hard on him now is going to save him a world of pain later. Keep being a dad. Princess Glimmer says, everyone sucks here. Typical arsehole manager attitude. And you have a shitty kid. Your fault too. You raised him. Spoiled Rich White Ghost says, how long are you making him pick up trash and work for free? You weren't an arsehole for firing him and revoking his privileges, but personally, I think you're an arsehole if punishment goes beyond one Saturday. Primary Suspect says everyone sucks here. Don't get me wrong, it's good parenting to stop your kid from treating staff like shit and acting entitled, but you crossed over into arsehole when you got him to work for free. You shouldn't have to contribute to the family business at 16 unless you were paying him. Your children shouldn't be used as free labor. You should make him apologize and not let him enjoy the benefits, but don't make him work for free. Paul Dinat says, "You're the asshole. If you're gonna fire him, then fire him. Fair enough, but don't force him to work for free. If you want a trash picker, hire him as a trash picker and pay him. Don't force him into what is essentially slavery just because he upset you. You're an asshole and possibly breaking some employment laws along the way." Yesterday we had the story where the son cut down some of their parents' trees and sold them, and you guys were saying, tree law, tree law. You was all loving it. And there's a story now which I just found about removing some tree roots. I thought I gotta cover that. You guys love a tree story. So this one's from But I Green Thumb, Am I the Arsehole? Titled, "Am I the Arsehole for removing tree roots from my yard?" My family and I moved into a new home this spring. We had previously lived in apartments, and we now have our first yard for our kids to play in. The neighborhood we moved into has a lot of mature trees, and this being the first time I've had to do my own yard work, there has been a learning curve. One of my neighbor's yard is separated from ours by a chain-link fence. There is a large tree just on their side of the fence. Some roots from the tree spread into my yard, and some of them are growing on the surface of the ground. They are visible and above the ground quite a bit. About a month ago, my kids were running around and playing, and my daughter tripped on one of the roots, fell, and ended up breaking her wrist trying to catch herself. Of course, this was very upsetting to my wife and I, as she pretty much told me to do something about the roots so this didn't happen again. So, I bought some tools and started tearing up the roots as best as I could. I got them to a point that nothing is sticking above the ground anymore, and filled the top with fresh soil and grass seed. My neighbor must have noticed the work I did because he made a comment about the fresh soil. I told him I had to remove some roots since my daughter tripped on one. He asked what I meant by remove. I told him I dug a bunch out and cut them out as best as I could. He got pissed and told me I'd probably kill this tree. I told him that removing a few roots isn't going to hurt a tree that big, and they were creating a trip hazard. And since they were in my yard, I did what I needed to do to remove them. He told me there are other ways to deal with roots, like that instead of cutting them out and causing stress to the tree, he would have gladly helped if I asked. He said that tree is probably going to die, which means it is probably going to have to be removed, and said that a tree that large is going to cost thousands of dollars to take out. I told him that sounded ridiculously expensive. He said if the tree dies and he has to have it cut down, he's going to ask me to pay for some of it because of what I did to the roots. I told him good luck with that, and I'm not paying anything for his tree. He called me an arsehole and told me the previous neighbors at least had the decency to ask for help when they didn't know what the hell they were doing, instead of causing damage to other people's property. I told my wife about it, and she thinks the guy is being a jerk and agrees with me that taking a few roots from the top of the ground isn't going to hurt a tree that big. She also agrees that there is no way in hell that we're going to pay for anything for this guy's tree. We're just making sure our yard is safe for our kids to play in. It's not our fault his tree grew roots into our yard. And probably about a couple of years or so back, I remember talking to a tree surgeon, or do they call them arborists, but I call them tree surgeons. And I was talking to them because they would like prune some trees and that to remove a couple as well. I can't remember what the reason was, and I remember something being said about the roots being on top and being chip hazards and stuff like that, because, health and safety wild these days. And I remember him saying something similar to, like, the roots on top were some of the most important roots because of the oxygen levels and stuff like that. Whether that's complete balls, I don't know. As I said, I know nothing. I'll just take what people said to me. But I remember him saying, though, like, those ones on top are some of the most important roots. Whether that would kill a tree or not, I really don't know. So I'm hoping some comments are going to clear this up. But legal territory, I would think, if you did damage someone's property, even though it's on your side of the fence, I think there is going to be some sort of responsibility if the tree does have to be cut down. I don't know again. I'm just sort of guessing here. And laws are all different in the UK and the US. I know plants and stuff in the UK, if they like hang over your side of the fence, you can cut them back to the fence level. But I doubt it's the same with a tree. Which reminds me of a story I actually saw in UK news that happened in Yorkshire, where like there was a tree that was overhanging someone's driveway and there was pigeons nesting in it and they kept pooing and it kept landing on someone's car. So the guy was so fed up with it, he cut half the tree. I'll put a photo up so you guys can see now. And apparently the neighbors did try to reach like an amicable solution to this, but couldn't come to one. And so this neighbor went out there and literally cut the tree perfectly in half. Yeah, it's crazy level stuff. And I can see what you guys say about tree lore and things like that. And if you guys do want me to cover some more tree lore stories, if you can gather those stories up, your favorite ones, and send them to me in Discord or on Twitter so I can gather some links up here, because I go into tree lore and I have trouble finding decent stories. I don't know why. I didn't want them for home. It's sickening. But I would love to read some more. But Copper and Node says, you're the arsehole. You should have told him what you were doing since it's his tree. Yes, even though the roots are on your side of the fence, it's the neighborly thing to do. And speaking of someone with a fair amount of experience with plants, depending on what kind of roots you hacked away, how many there were, and what you did to the open wound before covering with dirt, there is a chance you could kill the tree. Luxtrick says, yes, it's your property, but you should have really at least talked to your neighbor first to come up with a solution. It does cost thousands of dollars to remove big trees. You had to know that ripping out the roots would hurt the tree. You're the asshole. Hot Tip Audience says, sorry, but you're the asshole. You probably didn't know this, but if you damage his tree by cutting the roots, you are liable for the trees if it dies. You definitely should have spoken to him before cutting the roots. We did a ton of work in our very old property. The trees in my neighbor's property close to our boundary died, possibly as a result of the work we did. Our family law advised us to pay to have the trees removed. It wasn't contentious, and we are friendly with the neighbors, but it was the right thing to do. Zampi0 says, oof, you better look up tree law for your area, bub. Bub, they wish on your tree and you probably killed it or seriously hurt it. Maybe teach your kids to be more careful instead. I learned pretty young to watch where I'm running. You're the asshole. Bitch Tit says, you're the asshole. How would you like it if someone had something of yours apart down without asking first? Clearly the actions and justifications of the entitled. Like the tree dies and you end up paying for it. ETA, by your own admission, you are clueless about the tree and how you care for a yard. Why didn't you ask for help instead of charging ahead like you did know? And Verdi says, Arborist here, you most likely killed the tree. Those surface roots are the most important. Your neighbor's estimate of the cost sounds accurate. You're the asshole. And we have a couple more I'm enjoying these from. Contrabandita, who says, you're the asshole for admitting you know nothing, damaging a tree because your kid fell, like you were just going to destroy everything that she treads over. What sense does this make? Then calling your neighbor an asshole for your bad choices. Aya404 says, okay, so it's your first non-apartment home, and you identified an issue with roots from your neighbor's tree. Why wasn't your first thought to knock on a neighbor's door and say, hey, bit of an issue with the roots from that tree, what can we do? As opposed to hacking a big chunk of root out in the assumption, based, I take it, on no actual gardening knowledge, that'd be fine. You're the asshole, I'm afraid. But your daughter's wrist recovers well, though. Absolutely there. We do hope her wrist does recover well. Now, what do you guys make of this story? What are your thoughts on today's collections of stories, verdicts as well, if you choose to share them? Never any pressure though either. A huge thank you from the bottom of my heart for being involved in today's stories, getting involved in the channel, sharing your thoughts, your likes and everything. It really helps out, and I can never express how much you make a difference. You really, really do. So thank you so much. At the end of the video, there's a couple of playlists which you can watch and they will scroll through for you automatically, so you don't have to keep clicking. It's pesky, isn't it? And I will see you in the next one. Take care, guys. Oh, much love. Go with die. I got bulletproof. Y'all keep looking for that. No way. I think I'd like your helmet.